Hey everybody, and welcome to Super Comic Fun Times Daily Vlog. Um, Excuse me one second. Okay. Oh, my phone just flashed, but it's the notification that I started my vlog. So, I thought I would go over some comics news. Um, Zach and John Malin have started an Indiegogo for Zach's Jawbreakers. So that's going on, and so far that appears to be quite successful. Ethan Van Sciver is still doing Star Wars videos, and one day I might do a Star Wars video. I've got some opinions on that, but like everything else with this channel, mine are more thoughts about the past than Star Wars today, because Star Wars is pretty much dead. And I think that's a good thing. I think everybody should take their toys out of their box and play with them, and not let them get any more value. Just let Star Wars be a pleasant childhood memory. I think that's what it should be. So, speaking of childhood memories, this isn't mine, but hopefully it's somebody's. I am continuing on with my Mr. Miracle run from the 1990s. Well, it started in '89, and now we are heading into 1990. It's a very interesting thing. As you know, if you watched my last vlog, I really enjoyed the last two issues. This was the last one I reviewed, and here you have this creature called the Head. Now, from this cover, you might think he's a villain, but in this book, he isn't really a villain. The interesting thing, and I was really looking forward to continuing this story, is like, you know, after the big fight, the Head is kind of walking in the woods and really concerned about something, and then he gets lifted up, presumably to space. We don't know. And so this issue was dated, I don't know if I can get that. There might be too much glare. You might be able to see that a little bit. But anyways, this is from January 1990. Then we go to issue 13, which came out in March. So there's, while there's no numerical gap between these issues, there is a time gap, and it's very interesting. It's very confusing. So, like, you know, I was excited when I saw this. We've got Lobo on the corner, and even though I don't know a lot about Lobo, I enjoyed him. I think it was in 52. I think 52 might be the best modern era DC event, because it just has all these characters. It's a great story, and it has all these characters that you might not otherwise know. So what happens is this issue starts and we're already in outer space. And like, how did we get here? And so, like, we're going to this planet. Does this planet have a name? It's kind of like, you know, they're kind of making a social statement. It's like several hundred light years from Earth, circling a star that man has yet to name, there orbits a planet that man has also never named, but which the local inhabitants have come to call Squarm. Here, where modern technology has obviously run rampant, and grime and pollution are far more commonplace than sunshine, and evening's entertainment is the rarest commodity of all. So you have these two characters, and what they're doing is they're running. It's like, well, just go ahead and read the word bubbles. Will you hurry up? I don't want to miss this. Hey, don't blame me. Don't blame our being late on me. I told you we should have taken the glider tube. All I can say is this Mr. Miracle creature better be worth all this aggravation, considering what I paid for these tickets. So we're on some alien planet, and Mr. Miracle is doing a show. This was like another thing you notice in the cover is you have the cleaning spray, the Miracle Mister. Like, you know, this is a pretty good cover, because, you know, if you read the last issue, you go, oh, this like ties right in, but then you're in outer space. So, you know, maybe I should be talking about Star Wars here, because here you got this nice spread. This nice 2-page spread. It's really beautiful. really nice. And you have what's his name? Flashman is like the ringleader, and then you have uh, these alien creatures tying up Mr. Miracle or whatever. And of course, he's smiling. You've got the advertisements. So, you know, this is a very well done page. I really like it. And I should tell you, so Len Wein is continuing the writing on this. And this is the last issue before Doug Mensch takes over. And then Joe Phillips and Bruce D. Patterson share the art credit. Well, Joe Phillips is the penciler and Bruce is the inker. And so this issue was fun. It was confusing. I didn't mind being in outer space. Now this also had some of that dumb humor. So like, you know, they're on this planet, they do the show, you know, and of course Mr. Miracle escapes. It's at the beginning of the book. Why isn't he? So like here, this is the trick. Like he is put into this canister here, and then there's going to be a pile driver, and he has to get out beforehand. And of course he gets out. And so, yeah, like right here, I do like this panel when you see him, he's like on top of the machine. And then he does a little advertisement for this product, which is again called, oh, look, it's even in Alien. It's an alien on the box. So whatever the alien language is, they'd be able to read it. What is it called again? Miracle Mister? Yeah, so then the spaceship is kind of cool. So I don't know if you're familiar with this character. His name is Manga, like, you know, the comic books. That's like I was going to say the hokey kind of jokes. And at first I was like kind of groaning, but then it kind of grew on me. So like this Manga is a gas creature that lives inside kind of a robot suit. And his crew is robots. And they're all kind of named after an initial, you know, a person from our world with an initial. Like his main robot is named L. Ron, as in L. Ron Hubbard. Then there's another one called L. Sprague, as in L. Sprague de Camp. And I thought, oh, all those robots are going to be named after famous science fiction writers. No, that isn't the case at all, because there's a C. Thomas. What was C. Thomas Howell? I can't remember if it was C. Howell or C. Thomas. But yeah, all of his robots have an initial and then a name, like a famous person on Earth who had, you know, whose first name is an initial, like L. Ron Hubbard. So anyways, the artwork is great in this. These 4 issues I'm reviewing today, the main penciler is this Phillips fellow. And then they do get some different inkers and such in, and I don't quite remember the order. So anyways, they're going through this, and then they're out of fuel, I guess, so they have to go to this asteroid belt, and they bring in these asteroids. But what should come in with the asteroids but a couple of astrodolphins. Now, because I read 52, and because Lobo's on the cover, I knew that this was related to Lobo. Like, Lobo has this thing for dolphins. I think in 52, he was like a pope, a space pope. He was somehow, there's like a dolphin church or something. But so, so, you know, these astrodolphins are there, and then they realize, oh, Lobo, these dolphins somehow belong to Lobo. I forget exactly how. Oh, Elron, why not, if I may ask? Because I recognize these creatures, my lord, and their master will not be happy about that. And who is this master? His feelings should matter to us in the least. And Elron says, Lobo. Then everybody says, Lobo. Everybody knows who Lobo is. So I like that. It's like, first there's like the one of recognition, and there's the one of fear. The Lobo of recognition, the Lobo of fear. And then we head back to Earth. And I have no idea, like, because, you know, they're about to go on a tour because Scott destroyed the business district in his town. And, you know, when he had that fight with those people who wanted the head in the box, and then all that stuff, like, you know, what happened? Was there an annual? I mean, this was the 12th issue, so maybe there was an annual in there that explained it, but why was there a 3-month break? I guess I could do some research, but I kind of like not knowing so that I can be surprised. And so, like, yeah, what happens here is they've got all of this Miracle Mister in Barda's backyard, and these neighborhood kids who know who Mr. Miracle is and are like working an angle to like get a scam, trying to figure out. And Barda is lonely, and she's still hanging out with these animal rights protesters. So it doesn't seem like much time has passed for this part of the story. And so there's the neighbor with her sign. And I think either in this book or the next book, there's this really cool scene with the neighbor, and then she just turns into like a Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched. And so then we find out that also there's a Mr. Miracle robot with Justice League International. I don't know why. I don't know why. But then the robot won't like go home and help Barda. He just keeps trying to. I guess here he's actually calling her, but for the most part, he tries to avoid her, and he, just would be like, well, I guess she would know he was a robot, but I don't know why Mr. Miracle's in space. It's one of those things, and I could see how a new comic book reader coming in might be like totally lost and give up on it. I kind of like it because I like to puzzle on it, and and then these guys, it's like, I don't find them very entertaining. I like Blue Beetle in Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's the first time I think I read about him. And then in Countdown to Infinite Crisis, he was really good there. And here, him and Booster Gold are just kind of jokes. Booster Gold was also really good in 52. And he does have a jokey side to him, but he also has a very serious side to him in 52. So I highly recommend 52 if you haven't read it. It's probably the best, excuse me. Really famous people drink water. So yeah, then Lobo's coming, and like, they're talking about, they do make a lot of lame jokes, like putting up the shields. We don't have shields, and like, a bunch of conventions, and it's kind of really lightweight stuff. Then Lobo comes, and he just like crashes through into the ship. And I do think the ship is really cool. It's called a cluster something. And then here we go. We have Lord Manga. Look at the hand sign he's flashing, and he's like, all of his crew is robots, and all the robots are getting destroyed by Lobo. Lobo makes his appearance. He's got a pretty good page there. He also, I don't really know anything about Lobo and his creation. I mean, I know he killed his entire planet for some reason, but he also, I just noticed now he's got that lightning bolt on his chest, which is like Shazam. Does he come from the Shazam universe originally? I don't know. I should probably research that. Okay, and so like, Lobo comes, and Manga calls on some more robots, and Lobo beats them. And then Lobo destroys Manga, his suit. Is that here? No, he's still alive here. So like, yeah, like here, they haven't even got out of their makeup yet. It's like, Oberon is still in his makeup from the show on that planet. And then, I guess, see, spoilers, Manga is still alive at the end of this episode. So yeah, I really like the artwork of this. The story, like, I really liked where it was building in the previous issue, and then like, we're thrown into this other thing, and it's interesting enough. And I've read the next 4 issues, so like here we come. This is a really cool cover. And when I looked at it, I knew that Mr. Miracle and Lobo were not going to be fighting on the outside of the ship. Excuse me. That would just be silly. So this is where Doug Mensch takes over, and Phillips is still the main penciler. And Bruce Patterson, right here, they're co-created. They're not separated between penciler and inker. So this is still Patterson and Phillips. And yeah, so like, I guess we're still continuing the story, but Lobo's going to beat the robots, so we can skip ahead a little bit. And this was kind of a cool scene, like right here. So yeah, these guys are watching, and it's like, Scott, I followed the goons down here. Should we help them defeat Lobo? I'm not sure, Oberon. When your host is the devil. So somehow they got roped into this intergalactic tour, and they're considering Manga the devil. Do you help him defend hell? Who boy, talk about your sense shattering clobbering time. That's Funky Flashman. He speaks in Stanley kind of era cliches and stuff. He says tiger a lot too. So I don't know how Stanley felt. I know like he was very hurt when Funky Flashman first came around, when Jack Kirby was still writing him. I don't know how he felt later in life when he would show up, or if he even was concerned with it at all. And so here's where Lobo smashes Manga, and this is the actual essence of Manga. He just inhabits this robot suit. So then Scott makes a deal with Lobo. He says, like, let's just go see what happens. It's like they're willing to give him the Dolphins, but it turns out the robots made a trade for the Dolphins. And so, like, Scott says, okay, well, let's go ahead and, like, well, first of all, Lobo is, like, feeling really bad because smashing up Manga didn't make him feel any better. He's like, let's see. But yeah, like right here in the previous panel, it's like there he is, he's on his knees, and he's like, why do I feel so bad about being so bad? Could it be that my revenge was insufficient? And then Scott is saying, uh-oh. Then he goes, it's clear to me, Lobo, that you simply won't feel satisfied until you're returned with your Astro Dolphins. Why don't you and I go and get them? Huh? You want to help me, Miracle? Why? Let's see. Maybe because I feel some sense of responsibility in as much as I was technically Manga Khan's partner. I don't know if I buy it. And so, so then the bottom line is they're going to go off together and beat the get the Dolphins back. And in the meantime, oh yeah, there's where they go, and they like find out that this alien came, got the Dolphins. The Dolphins look happy, so it's not like anything bad is happening to them. And then we go from the Dolphins to the protest with Barda and her animal rights activist buddies. And so they're there, and she's like feeling dissatisfied. And then she comes home, and those kids are there, and they're like, this is where they're like, they want to like sell all of the Miracle Mister, and they say they know she's scot-free as Mr. Miracle, and she gets really, really pissed. She stamps the ground, and she opens up this chasm here. So that was kind of cool, but then she just goes away. It's like these kids don't seem to have anybody who is, how you say, watching out for them. And here we go. Then we have like people from the company that they're protesting, conspiring, and they think that Barda will be a good dupe for them, and that will come later. And then we come to this planet. Now, longtime fans of DC will know this planet. I am not a longtime fan, and I knew this planet. And, it's kind of cool. So, like, the Dolphins are there. They're eating this yellow rocks. I don't know why space dolphins eat yellow rocks, but that's what they do. And apparently, skipping ahead a little bit is like they go down there, Lobo and Mr. Miracle, and they try to go to the Dolphins, but the planet kind of attacks them. And yeah, so like here you have Lobo being grabbed by a root or whatever, and the same thing with Mr. Miracle. And it turns out that the planet is Mogo, the Green Lantern Mogo, and these yellow rocks, they're kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of like, there's like alligators, they get food in their teeth, and then these birds will come and pick them out, and the alligators don't eat these birds. And that's sort of what this is. It's a symbiotic relationship between the planet and the Dolphins. And then Barda, I really feel bad for her character because she doesn't get to do much but complain, really. And, these kids are just like, looking to sell the Miracle Mister stuff, which is all over her backyard. Her husband is away. She doesn't even know he's in outer space. And so like all this stuff is happening. And then, she's relegated to doing like the animal rights activism and being mad all the time. And, I don't know if that's her character. I mean, like what I know of her character, the little bit I've read of her, I know she does have a temper. She was raised on Apocalypse by Granny Goodness, and she was some sort of warrior, like maybe a Valkyrie would be an appropriate comparison to what we know from mythology. Anyways, it turns out, there isn't much to this one. It just kind of ends there. You see this is like Lobo Lobo's convinced that his dolphins weren't in the greatest health. They were in the asteroid belt where they got sucked into the ship because they were requiring food, and the food of those yellow rocks is good. And so like they just make a deal. It's like, he's got more astro dolphins out there someplace, and he's going to bring them to the planet. And then when the yellow rocks aren't being produced on the planet, I guess there's a season for yellow rocks, then the dolphins are free to go if they desire, and they can go hang out with Lobo again. So the other thing is with Manga Khan, kind of, here he comes back. It's like there was like a little side plot where whatever contract Scott signed with Manga Khan, if Mega Khan was disembodied, they could have just left. They could have gone back to Earth. But because Scott was off rescuing dolphins, they missed their opportunity. And then it kind of ends, you see Mogo there in the background. And then you have Barda, and this guy comes here to sort of seduce her into becoming a dupe for the company that's the animal rights thing. Then we come to issue 15, and I really love this cover. That's one of my favorite covers. I think this book, it does this. It might have done better if it had made this maze a little more interesting. Scott Free goes into the maze, and first of all, they're heading to their next gig, which is a planet called it's colossal. It's a kind of alliteration to suggest that everything on the planet is really big. They take a shuttle, and they get hit by an asteroid, but it's not an asteroid. It's a rock, and they crash. And after they crash, there's some bad jokes. There's like, how come there's no deflector shields? It's because we're heading into the planet's atmosphere. We don't use deflector shields then, and there are usually asteroids coming up from the planet's surface. So that's how you know it's not an asteroid. And then this guy is here. Barda's changed her clothes from the end of last issue, and she's wearing these kind of weird slippers. I don't know if they're supposed to be bunny slippers, but I just thought that was kind of, that was something I noticed. It's kind of weird. So this guy's pretending that he has got some inside dope on this company, and he gives her the location of this warehouse that they're going to be testing nerve gas on animals. And, she just gets really, and he says he can't do anything about it because they're after him because he broke into the files and whatnot. And then you've got the neighbor. I guess I kind of missed out the one where she had a really interesting. Now she's just pretty much Mrs. Kravitz. She's kind of just spying on the neighbor, and so like he gives Barda a package, and she thinks Barda is having an affair, and like her husband is totally disinterested in it. And then we end up back on the planet where this big being comes, picks up Scott Free, and walks off with him. Oh yeah, because he kind of jumped out of the ship to try to save everybody while it was crashing. That's why he's outside and separated. And then you got these kids again with their little schemes, and they realize that they don't know how to sell all the. They have like 27,000 boxes of Miracle Misters. They don't know how to get rid of it, and they're kind of scheming. And then you have So what is he doing here? So we're back. Oh yeah, that's not the kid. That kid almost looks like looks like the guy, but I think that's the kid skimming. Here, got a few suckers out there. Uh, will take a box for, they're kind of like trying to price the Miracle Mister. Uh, I don't really get it because they don't really seem to have a very good plan. I wonder if this story was supposed to go someplace else. I don't know. So yeah, so then we go back, and there's there's some alien writing, and you got this maze that they're going to put Mr. Miracle in, and he has to survive it. He has to defeat five champions, I think, and it's just kind of standard stuff. It could have been interesting if there was some character development with it, like there was some psychological thing, but Mr. Miracle just kind of like jumps out of the way. That opens up a hole here. Then when he goes there, there's another bad guy, but then he just gets the two bad guys to fight each other. And when I first saw this cover, I thought that this trap might be something where something psychologically deeper. Like, I can't remember if it was the death of Adam Warlock, but he goes into this. There's some book I read when I was a kid, and he goes into this kind of madness, and he has to not only fight his own ego, but Thanos is there too, or something. I don't really remember it, but it was supposed to be the last Adam Warlock story, somewhere around 1980. So then she's got this bomb. She doesn't know what to do. She calls Justice League to talk to Scott, and I think this time he just blows her off and says, "Wrong number." Yeah, it's like, choices like that just, it makes me wonder. It's like, I like Doug Mensch as a writer, at least I did when I was a kid, and it seemed like, in a sense, that nobody had an idea what to do with this book. So, after we see Barda just, I guess, like, she does, even though I kind of feel she's shorted in the story, she has a more interesting dilemma to deal with than Scott does in this maze. And we go back to the maze, and he's going to beat this guy, and I don't think there's any kind of psychological torment. And then, like, the cat has a shuttle, walks off with it. It's because we're on kind of a Land of the Giants type thing. And then what do we got here? So then Scott ends up, I think he beats the last guy. No. The alien here is like saying, "Oh, you've still got one you gotta defeat." And then these guys are still in the ship, blah blah blah. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of disappointed. I'm going to continue reading this because some of them have been really good. Like, before this lot, before these four I'm going over today, I really was enjoying them. And then, so, Scott is still fighting stuff inside the maze, and he's just using his skills, and Mother Box is giving him hints and stuff. And then it turns out that it was just a kid. Like, when he loses, it's just a kid playing with his action figures. At least he took them out of the box. It's like, unbox your toys. So, yeah. So then we got the bad guys scheming against Barda. And they think they're going to go. They're going to go for it, and they're just talking about how, like, the warehouse is insured. She blows up the warehouse. It gets rid of something that is worn out and useless, and they'll get insurance money. So they win-win no matter what she does. And then they can blame her animal rights group for blowing it up and discredit them too at the same time. And then it ends with the people in the ship, and then the cat menacing them. And here, I like this cover too. I like a lot of these covers. These covers are very good. So yeah, you got Funky Flashman, you've got Manga, Oberon, Mr. Miracle, and then you've got these rat-like creatures. They're aliens, so they're not exactly rats. I just noticed this, excuse me. Yeah, I guess they're always different. It's like, this one looks way different. It's like, normally when Mr. Miracle is in the corner here, it looks to be like that. At least the ones I've got. Most of the ones I got, he doesn't have a little But he isn't in a corner or anything. But this one, is just really weird. It looks like, I guess this might be like he's inside a trick and it's not going so well. I'm not sure what's going on there. Huh. Well, that was kind of interesting, at least. So yeah, then this story continues. The rat, the cat has it. It drops it in the sewer, and then these guys all end up going down in the sewer when the cat. Yeah, that was like the weird part. Is like the cat somehow drops it in the sewer, but there doesn't look to be any way for it to get there. Like here. So, it bounces on the sewer, and then it goes through. But how did it get through? That's perplexing. How did it fall through the sewer grate? I don't know. So yeah, then anyways, these guys are up. Oh yeah, they end up on this part where they're like, in this strange vegetation, and like Oberon is sitting on this thing. He goes, oh, it's nice and cushy. Then he goes, oh, it's too cushy. I think it might be a pimple. And then it turns out that they're like on some sleeping guy. And that's when the cat attacks him. Oh yeah, look at this, 1990s. So the big comic movie that came out that year was Dick Tracy. I can't remember if there was a Batman movie that year or not. And so they go into the sewer and they're floating on sticks, and other than death-defying stuff. And then we find out that okay, we come back to Big Barda, and she's still like fretting over the bomb. Should I do it? I wish I could talk to Scott. And then like we find out here at Justice League headquarters, Scott Free has died, and it tells us. What does it tell us? CJLA 39. Despero destroyed a Mr. Miracle robot, but they don't know that. So like they're all deciding on who should call Barda, and Blue Beetle suggests they draw straws. I mean, and then so like this is kind of a weird structure because it's not really that weird because it's kind of good. So like it's like what should I do? What should I do? Scott won't even talk to me when I call the Justice Leagues. Scott's dead, even though it's not Scott. Oh, give me a sign. So she's watching TV. She's watching this soap opera, which this is around the same time that Twin Peaks is on. So she's watching the soap opera called Love's Lost Regrets. And I don't know if that's a Twin Peaks reference or not. It could be. I can't remember what the soap opera in that show was. But then the commercial comes on, and that's her sign. There's a little puppy who's happy. So she decides she has to go and blow up the thing. And then her neighbor is still like, spying on her. I thought this was kind of interesting. The two crosses in the binoculars. And so, yeah, and her husband is like, she talks about how Barda, she's miscommunicating what's going on here. And so she thinks Barda's going to be off with a lover. And her husband goes, oh, that's nice, dear. Maybe you should go and join her. I mean, it's kind of typical 1960s style comedy from whatchamacallit. So like Blue Beetle's idea was to draw straws, and he draws a straw, but nobody answers the phone, and the kids are still scheming. Then we go back to the planet for a second, and then Barda this is probably like the best part of this book, is Barda is in the warehouse, but she decides not to use the bomb. This is the first time in this entire run, I think, Barda has been in costume, and I thought that was kind of cool. So she uses her, Jack Kirby gave these weapons kind of a weird and clunky names at times, and the big Barda way, Mega Rod. So she uses her Mega Rod and the whole thing is like, if this is nerve gas, I don't think blowing up. Why is she like, she's not wearing any breathing apparatus. Blowing up a warehouse full of nerve gas isn't good. It's going to get into the atmosphere and poison the town. So anyways, she's here. like I say, this is probably the best part of the book, and you know, uh, then you have Mr. Miracle just doing his Mr. Miracle stuff. He's perfect in every way. He like figures out how to he figures out like how the shuttle was crashed. He just figures it all out. It comes easy to him. And then Barta gets arrested on Earth. And you know, the other thing is like the sewers, Oberon makes a reference like they're riding sticks. He goes, "This reminds me of the river Styx." And it turns out that at the end of the sewer line, there's like a kind of a crushing thing. And then there's a furnace that burns up all the garbage. And so Mr. Miracle is trying to solve that. And Oberon goes, "I was right. This is taking us right to hell." And so like, then, you know, he had planted his cube in the neck of a worker who had found their shuttle, and they're just throwing it out. They think it's a kid's toy. They don't know what it is. And it's weird to me because they're going to this planet to do a show. You would think somebody would tell them that it's a planet of giants and that there would be some communication. Yeah, it's kind of dumb. And then like we come back to the interesting part of the story. This is when Barta does become interesting. It's like, you know, I think like the reasons that she did it weren't the best, but you know, she cares about animals, so she destroys this thing. She's getting her mug shots, and then one of the Justice League, when they couldn't get a hold of Barta, they called that other Ted, and he tells her that Mr. Miracle is dead. And then you have this great ending scene, this ending artwork with her screaming no, which of course a few years later George Lucas would, oh no, more than a decade later, right? Yeah, would steal this. He stole this scene for Darth Vader at the end of the last Star Wars movie that he did. What's it called? The Revenge of the Sith, something like that. So, you know, I like it well enough. I could be reading something better, but I've got all these Mr. Miracle books, and you know, some of them were really good. I thought we were starting to go someplace with issue 12, and I really would like to know what happened to the head. He was a very interesting character, and yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. These books are 20 years old, something like that, 25 years old. And they're kind of fun. I do like them. I do, you know, I think like I didn't realize what I was missing until I did this vlog. So that's a good reason to do this vlog, even if nobody watches. It's because like the problem with the books is Scott Free doesn't really have any struggles in these. Like in the Dark Side War, he had a struggle. And, you know, his biggest struggle prior to these 4 issues I did today was trying to keep, you know, him and Barta just wanted to live a quiet life. And, you know, there was a little bit in the very first episode I did on this series, you know, issue 4, where he's dealing with father issues with Oberon. And then, you know, that was a very fun issue. Yeah, I just think they did not know what to do with this character. They didn't. And this is what we ended up with. This is probably like, you know, a very forgettable run, which is kind of sad. It's got a lot of talented people working on it. But right now, I guess Tom King is crushing it with Mr. Miracle, which I will get that when it is a book. Oh, this was like the last piece of news. It looks like the 99-cent Marvel sales are over for the time being on Comixology, which is kind of a bummer because, you know, they put up a new one yesterday, and there were a couple of Avengers books that I was tempted to get. And if I would have known it was going to be the last day, I would have grabbed those 2 books. But I already grabbed so many books. I don't know if I'll ever get around to reading them all. That you know, is a fantastic price. So that is it. I'm going to end it now. Maybe we'll have a daily vlog tomorrow, and I'll read the next 2 issues of this, and maybe something else will happen. Love you guys. See you soon.